following preview has been rated Good Weird by Nicho.
And Good Weird by Chris.
Of the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast. Please check out the full episode when it releases on Wednesday. This summer, Cage returns for an action-filled movie of babies, Harleys, and explosions in Raising Arizona. I'm Nicho.
And I'm Chris.
I didn't write an opening for this. I couldn't think of something this time. So.
It's okay. It's okay. Does Raising Arizona really need an intro?
Maybe. For some,
definitely. Which is, I enjoyed this movie, despite this not being my style. And I can see how this movie could very, easily start creating a cult following behind it.
Yeah, there's so many people that I know. When I told them that I watched a bunch of Nicolas Cage movies, something I have figured out, I missed by the end of this month, I'll only have been missing 23.
A very impressive number.
Not to some of my friends, I guess.
Oh, well, they must not know how many he has.
Oh, they know. They know. But it's one that I had held off on watching for a while, because it is earlier Nicolas Cage.
It is. It is a young Cage.
At that time, I had seen a few stuff around that, such as, Valley Girl, Rumblefish, Birdie, Moonstruck.
Moonstruck, of course.
Yeah. But it had been one that I'd been putting off for a while, but it's one that so many people that when I told about Nicolas, I bring up Nicolas Cage, that is their movie that they want to talk about. I
agree. And I think part of that is people just a hair older than us. Mm-hmm. Because when I talk to other people around our age, a lot of them see and remember Cage for his National Treasure role. And that was where I was for a long time until we really started diving into his works. And then when I asked people a little older, closer our parents' age, for them, a lot of them would say, "Oh yeah, Raising Arizona was a great piece. I don't understand why you people think he's not a good actor." Yeah. And I also counter that with saying, "Have you seen all of his other works?" Yeah. Because he is a great actor, but he is also a very silly actor.
Well, and on top of that, for me, mine was The Family Man.
Sure.
So that was way before, it was Family Man and Ghost Rider. Those were, the only movies I had seen him in.
Mm-hmm. Ghost Rider's a delightful movie, but it is very Cage.
Yeah, very much so.
It's heavy on the Cage. Raising Arizona was surprisingly light on the Cage. I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting this movie to be more cagey, even though it's a Coen Brothers film. Mm-hmm. And I think part of that is because it is an early Coen Brothers film, and I had expected, a lot of other writers and directors that we've talked about, to see a bigger arc in how they've written and directed. It is very common for us to see, the starts of a style or a start of a, strong-headedness in the film and art industry, and then, that then takes off in, their 5th or even 10th movie. Whereas it seems from the get-go, they had a vision and they've stuck with it.
Yeah, well, the older of the Coen brothers was, my age when he directed this.
Yeah, and I do think it helps that they are, we talk about in the episode, they're fairly tight-knit on, their methods and styles. They must have that shit worked out because both Cage and Goodman talk about how it was kind of hard working with them, but we everything was respectful, and we see their vision, it makes sense. It's just this is a very tame Cage.
They weren't allowed to improv a lot, which those two I know we know Cage wants to do all the time. Yes. But even Holly Hunt, she even mentioned that she tried to bring up a couple lines here and there, but the Coen brothers just no, this is our movie, this is the vision we're gonna have. Everything is purposely, meticulously put together.
And I do think that's why I liked this movie. This sort of humor isn't my style. This styling of movie normally isn't something that I gravitate towards. And while I think the Coen brothers are good, I've never been disappointed by their movie. They're not really normally my cup of tea. But you also can't deny that it's not well done. No. And I think it is an interesting balancing act, because someone like my husband, I think this is going to be his favorite Cage film by far. Whereas for me, I'm still leaning more towards a Cage who's, free reign to try something new, really branch out there.
Yeah, I've realized recently that I definitely am more of a fan of older Cage, Mandy, Color Out of Space, Willy's Wonderland.
For sure, those are definitely some of his most refined versions of the out there Cage.
Yeah.
Where he has time to fill time to like show that like in Raising Arizona, where he is a good actor. He is very capable of portraying a very kooky but realistic, simple character. But at the same time, like, it is really fun to see someone who we've all kind of come to know as being a very over the top in his styling.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I liked Raising Arizona. I'm probably not going to keep rewatching it, though.
No, I think it just, for me, it feels very much like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, or what's the one with Matthew McConaughey, all right? Dazed and Confused.
Oh, yes.
It feels like if I had watched those much younger, I probably would have liked them a bit more. But again, it's don't get me wrong, it's an enjoyable movie.
Sure.
But there are parts that don't stick with me. Like the humor, there's some subtle humor that I like, but there's a lot of humor that I just don't understand.
Sure, and I also think that for me anyway, while this movie was good and it was very enjoyable, I'm very picky on my humor. And while this got very close to being a like mainstream-ish comedy that I do enjoy, it's not really my taste, but I will say I am glad to have seen it. I did really like Cage's performance in it, but it's not the Cage that I'm looking for. No,
exactly. It's not, doesn't take itself seriously, but it's also not out there. It's that kind of happy medium where it's a movie that's entertaining but isn't deep per se. It's like all the Coen Brothers movies where it's what you take from it. I think I took enough from it where I don't really need to go back.
Yeah, and I do think that, at least for me, that is it is the double-edged sword of the Coen Brothers, where they are secretive about their thoughts and opinions about their works because they want you to have your own thoughts and opinions. But whereas other directors have told me to have thoughts and opinions and then told me their thoughts and opinions, they don't tell me their thoughts and opinions.
No.
There's very little about, like, they are very dry when it comes to their interviews. They're very secretive and quiet about their writing and directing and influences, which is understandable. And again, this movie was great, but I would love a little bit more to sink my teeth into.
Yeah.
I would love to confirm more of the literary influences that are definitely here. There's definitely stuff inspiring this film, but they want you to figure it out.
No, exactly. It's one of those ones where it feels like there should be more meat, but there's just that skinning of it.
Yeah. But again, it is a very good movie, and I can understand why, time and time again, despite me explaining that this is not my type of humor, people keep recommending this movie to me.
Yeah. I think it's just because it's their favorite Cage movie and we do a podcast on Cage.
True. And also, I agree. I can totally get why this is some people's, like this is on several top 100 lists of comedy. And I totally see why. I'm just incredibly picky about my comedy. And I also like the stupidest of shits.
Yeah.
So that leaves us in kind of an awkward spot, because this is a good movie. I do recommend you watch it, and also listening to the full episode.
Exactly. So, anywho, this has been the Good, the Bad, and the Weird previews.
Check out the full episode.
Peace.